Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining me this morning.
It's a beautiful Thursday morning, almost the weekend, and the weather is looking good up here in the city, although I think we had a little bit of rain last night. And,
There was rain last night?
I think so, because when I woke up when I got out of the house this morning, I saw everything wet. There were even more leaves than normal on the ground, so I figure we had, but we are going to get our weather update a little later on.
Yeah.
But there is a lot to talk about.
Oh yes, absolutely. Today is day 4 of the teachers union strike. It is still going, and we know that the different branches are arranging to continue with their strike action or the protest action countrywide. This is a situation we've been talking about on a daily basis and providing updates as well. Yesterday, they were at the Senate meeting.
Yes, and we saw them come out in their numbers to protest while the budget was being debated in the Senate. They were there they were there for most of the day. And of course, they were there with signs, and the message, of course, was one of unity. And it seems as though they are sending the message to the government that they are not backing down as of right now. And we even saw Senator Elena Smith address them, even though she wasn't taking part in the protest, because of course she was sitting in the Senate. But of course, it was a very eventful day yesterday. I mean, just thinking about the budget presentation as well.
Yeah.
I mean, debate.
And the key development yesterday is as well that the budget was approved in the Senate, and that particular budget does include the salary cut. So I'm really interested to see how the conversation changes today from those who go out to strike, because striking against the cut at this point, while nothing is impossible, I think that looking at the fact that it has been passed through the upper house, it changes the stakes. One of the things I know that was mentioned in the House itself by the senators was the fact that there still is a call to come back to the table to discuss the good governance measures.
Yes, absolutely. And we've been hearing from the government side, we've heard several representatives from the Prime Minister down talking or at least sending the message to the unions that yes, we hear you, we want to accomplish a lot of what you're asking for, but they're asking for a longer timeline. And as of right now, at least the message from the teachers, from the BNTU, is that no, they're demanding certain things right now if it is that if they're having to accept the salary cut.
That's right. That's right. So it is still ongoing. As far as we know, the last communication coming from the Public Service Union is that they initiate strike action on Monday. We have heard from the private sector representatives, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that they have offered themselves as mediator in this process. I think all parties are aware as to the consequences of having strike action, especially from public service, and what that can possibly mean for slowing things down in the country as well.
Yes, and I think that would be, of course, the worst case scenario if everything does. We've got teachers striking, which of course comes on the heels of the very recent return of phased-in face-to-face learning. We know that, of course, the teachers have been out of the classroom for more than a year. Some schools are just starting to begin that, and on the heels of that, now we've got this protest action, which is, of course, affecting not only a significant population, because it doesn't really only affect teachers but also students as well. So with that in mind, we have to hope that the talks are going to be ongoing and that they will be quickly resolved.
Yeah, I think collectively what needs to happen is, for sure, they have to come back to the table. You know, strike action is a part of being able to get the conversation going again, to see the actions that you're requesting being implemented. And it's a matter of being able to come back together and say, okay, this is exactly what we would like to see, what we demand to see, I should say, take place. And that can only happen not necessarily from the streets, but it has to happen in a conversation with your opposing party. And at this point, it's government and the unions.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and we keep on following it, of course, so we can give you the latest. As I said, today is a different day in this particular process, as the budget has been approved. Whether or not that changes the message coming out from the unions today, we will give you that update in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m. And of course, we'll give you some updates during the day for those of you who are logged in on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think oh, sorry, before we get to that, I was saying yesterday, you also made a big announcement last night. Yeah, so that, well, we don't talk about that.
I know. I was kind of skipping that part by. It was time. It was time, and it was something that I knew would have to happen when I did take up my new position. And so we ensured that we did all the groundwork that we could behind the scenes. I had said very early on it would mean that I'd be reducing my time on air. So that's what will happen. I'm really excited to bring in some new faces and to pass the baton on to the younger generation as well. Yeah. And also, I think one of the things last night especially, and we learned this working on TV, you develop a personal relationship with people. People develop a personal relationship with you. And it really was a thank you to viewers who, as I said last night, make a choice and who build a commitment and a relation. I have gotten calls from all parts of this country, just the sweetest messages over the years, and you realize that it's a sense of a connection that people develop with you. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for that.
Oh yeah, of course. And I mean, I watched it too, and I think everybody who did could see how. I mean, I think you got a little bit emotional at a certain point, and I think it just shows.
Emotional?
I think it just shows how dedicated you were. So yeah, I think all of us who watched that definitely appreciated that message, and of course we wish you well. And of course, part of me wants to also think that you're having a little bit more fun in the morning part.
Yeah, it adds more time to my day, but this is yeah, I'm still going to be here. Yep. This is one, getting an early start to the day and getting in real good quality conversations is something that I still look forward to. So I'll be here with you in the mornings. And yeah, so that's it. 15 years comes to an end. New era starts. New anchors taking us through, and you can count on us that we'll keep on improving as we move forward.
For sure, change is always something, but it's exciting. Yeah. I think it can be.
Yeah, so that's the announcement coming from us internally. But we got to get moving into our motivation for today, and that means it's time for our eye opener. Our eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. To act as a guardian to somebody during a difficult time is a most beautiful gift of support. One of the greatest gifts we can give another human being is to act as their guardian. Whether this gift is related to a specific situation or is representative of an ongoing commitment, we each benefit from the association. To protect someone is to walk with them in challenging times and see them through safely to the other side. In doing this, we grow with them, and those under our guardianship derive confidence from our support and assistance, enabling them to persevere through almost any conditions. Our ability to empathize with those under our guardianship is our greatest asset, because our comprehension of their needs allows us to determine how we can best serve them. Even when this comprehension is limited, however, the loving intentions with which we enter into our role as guardian ensure that our care and protection help others grow as individuals while living their lives with grace.
Yeah, that's an interesting eye-opener.
Yeah.
And I think it is true. You know, it's when you have to be there for somebody during a difficult time, then of course it calls on you to really, well, first of all, I think that when somebody's having a difficult time, first, like, for you to be the one that they choose to turn to is first, like, that's a huge deal to me. You know, so when I think that when somebody shows you their vulnerable side, or if they're just going through something difficult and they allow you to be the one, to be that person for them, I think is a huge deal. And so I take those times really seriously because of all of the reasons that the eye opener talks about. And you know, I think that even when you're in that situation, finding out, trying to decide like what's going to be the best situation or what's the best outcome or how you can best be there for them can sometimes be difficult. But it is really, I think at the end of the day, just being there and just because sometimes, you know, when people come to you with problems or something, sometimes they're not necessarily looking for advice or a solution.
Or a solution.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just, you know, to be there, or especially like when it's just, when something's like really raw, or if it's just happened, sometimes you just need that sort of emotional outlet to be. And sometimes you can just be that, whether it's just to listen or, you know, just be there, give them a hug or whatever. That can mean a lot more than even, you know, trying to provide that, you know, solution or advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what stood out to me. It, you know, when it said that even when this comprehension is limited, the loving intentions in which we enter our role ensure that our care and protection help others grow. And that's, you know, when you have people who you are protective of, if you have if you've developed a sense of empathy for other people and you know that it's a tough time and they want some love or guidance or care, it's so critical that you're able to recognize that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to fix it for them. And that just seems to be a natural tendency as well. What is key is that they know they have you in their corner.
Yeah.
And that's such a great relationship to be able to develop with people, not just with family, with friends, with people you mentor, with others. Sometimes it's just an acquaintance who may reach out as well because they feel that you would be the right person. So, you know, it's a great relationship to build and something that strengthens just the kindness that we can develop towards each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the eye opener did mention that because there was a section that was talking about that when we are there for them and we do choose to act in this way, then we do grow with them. And I think that that's true. Because I think if you can think back to a time when you've probably helped somebody during a difficult time, after the experience is over, one, you share that experience with somebody. But you do learn and grow with each other as the process, you know, through the process. Yep.
All right. Well, with that, let's get moving into our weather for today.
Yep.
All right. So we don't have a forecaster on the line today, so we'll go ahead and read the prepared forecast.
Okay, and our general situation for today, we are expecting it to be warm and generally fair weather will prevail.
24-hour forecast, sunny with a few cloudy spells today and partly cloudy tonight. There is the chance of an isolated thunderstorm developing over the Maya Mountains this afternoon, and otherwise little or no rainfall is expected.
Our winds are going to be blowing from east to southeast at 10 to 20 knots, and that is going to make for a moderate sea state.
All right, brace yourselves, Belize, or highs for today. 91 along the coast, 99 inland, and 84 in the hills.
And for tonight, we can expect low temperatures of 81 along the coast, 75 inland, and 68 degrees Fahrenheit up in the hills.
All right, so there is a heat advisory. Residents, especially those inland, are advised to stay hydrated and avoid outdoor activity as much as possible.
And our outlook as we head into the weekend, for Friday and Friday night, we are expecting a similar trend in weather conditions like today to continue.
All right. And that is our forecast for today, provided by forecaster Angelica at the Belize Met Service. Definitely a warm one. Stay hydrated.
Yep, exactly.
Right. With that, we're going to get moving into our show for this morning.
Yep. And we, of course, have a lot of interesting conversations lined up for this morning. Our first topic, we are going to be speaking about the budget. And we're going to continue discussions that we've been talking, and we're going to get an update or a breakdown, really, from Christopher Koyi, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance.
All right. The second part of the show, we're talking about COVID-19 and how it affects one of our vulnerable populations, and that is those who are homeless and those who are mentally ill. We'll be checking in with the administrator at the Welcome Resource Center to find out how things are going there.
And finally, we are going to get an update from the Humane Society, and we're going to be talking about, the increase of abandoned animals that has happened since the onset of the pandemic, and we're also going to be speaking a little bit on how you can care for your pets if you do have them. And that's going to be our final conversation for this morning. Mm-hmm. And with that, we, of course, are going to be taking a very short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the economy. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. Stronger together. The Belize Bank. Our country. Your bank.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
Why, Tony?
Boy, Keith, what you going on, man?
We actually come see we can need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups from the grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just ran out to the last batch, must have been like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? What is going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we're just getting into our first conversation for this morning. And as we said earlier, we are going to be breaking down a little bit of the 2021 to 2022 budget. And joining us for this conversation, we have the Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, Christopher Koyi. Good morning, Minister.
Hi, morning.
All right. And thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate your coming in to share a little bit of this about the budget. Now, I guess we can start by just talking a little bit about what the process was like for the government putting the budget together for the 2021-2022 financial year.
Well, certainly it was an involved process. We had internally, in terms of the ministries, putting together their budgets with certainly ceilings that we had to establish having regard to the state of public finances. We also had the budgetary consultations with the various social partners and stakeholders, and had that influence the process in terms of what we wanted ultimately to come to in terms of the budget estimates to be tabled. So it was a couple months in going through that process.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive into some of the details of the budget. One of the things that is a critical part of being able to talk about what the next year will look like is talking about the recovery plan. There are 4 specific points that have been outlined as a part of this recovery process. And given everything that has been taking place over the past few weeks, we've really only focused on one part. But I want to expand the conversation this morning to get a better understanding. What is the number one point identified in that recovery plan that you feel is going to help us in recovering and rebounding in the short term?
Well, I think I can't say that there's one item in particular. It has to go in combination. When we looked at the state of government's finances, the gut reaction in terms of trying to stimulate economic activities to see how we can spend, how we can target spending so that we seek to fill that hole that is left by the economic contraction. The unfortunate thing is with the debt position, the debt overload that we are faced with. So that represented the first critical issue to address. And so we have to look at how do we get back onto a sustainable path. And that meant looking at affordability issues and adjusting on the expenditure side. I think the immediate focus is not to crash. We don't want the economy to crash, but we don't want the government in itself to crash. We don't want to put our foreign exchange currency peg at risk. So that's the immediate concern. In terms of stimulating economic activity, recognizing that we have the challenges from a debt standpoint, that we are fiscally constrained from that targeted spending, then it became important to look at more creative ways. One, in terms of how we prioritize the spending on the government end, and that meant that we look at projects that are more grant-oriented, projects that have a larger component of grant funding in it. As an example, one of the infrastructure projects or a couple of the infrastructure projects include the coastal road, and as well the Remate bypass road, or the improvements to the Philip Golson International Highway. In the case of the Remate road, or the Philip Golson Highway, that is a what, 59.8 million US project, of which over 18 million US comprises grant funding. So looking at how do we use these projects that have large components of grant funding to enable or stimulate economic activity at the same time. So prioritizing capital spending in that way to get government to still spend, but not as much by way of just debt, but by getting, in effect, free money is certainly one priority. Looking at other alternatives in terms of our bilateral relationships, Taiwan, how can we get additional funding, additional support from our partners like Taiwan, and as may have been put out in the media, that they have committed to supporting us in the sum of $80 million, of which 20 million comprises grant funding as well. So redirecting and that approach with our international partners to see how we can get more grant funding is certainly one of those ways that we sought to prioritize capital expenditures. But at the same time, still recognizing that we have the fiscal constraints in terms of expenditure. That's where we look at the monetary side, the monetary policy, and how can central bank play a more active role in supporting and stimulating economic activity. And that's where we have that $50 million special program that has been established by the central bank, or is in the process of being established by the central bank with a targeted approach to existing businesses that generate foreign exchange.
Before we move further on that, just going back to one of the points that you mentioned in trying to access grants and favorable loans, how challenging is that for a country like Belize with the current economic situation?
Well, I think it was the IMF that mentioned that we have to have this fine balancing act, and that's where we are. I think I mentioned it previously. It's like a labyrinth that we have to navigate ourselves through, given all the financial challenges and economic challenges that we currently face. We have to have those conversations with the IFIs, with the IMF, and now with the bondholders. And in each instance, we have to appreciate where they are coming from and look at how we can meet not only our challenges, but gain access, notwithstanding the challenges that we have.
Yeah. Now, you made a presentation, I think just last month, where you spoke of how countries like Belize middle-income countries like Belize have not been able to access funding. And you made a call collectively. Tell us a bit about why this is such a critical statement for us to make at this time.
I think that call for action, that call for support is looking at where we are as a vulnerable country, as a climate vulnerable country, and at the same time, what we suffer in terms of debt. I think it's useful to appreciate that Belize has been one of the leaders in conservation and environmental sensitivity and in overall preservation of our environment. And it's important to put that effort, that initiative, decades-long initiative, alongside the fact that at the same time, Belize, whether for the fact of more frequent natural disasters that we're currently suffering, other weather-related shocks, drought, floods, hurricanes, or fiscal mismanagement, corruption, and all of those things, for whether the reality that we face is that Belize has not been growing over the past decade. We've, unlike our neighbors, unlike our regional peers, we have been shrinking. So on one end, we have stepped up to the table in being climate conscious or environmentally conscious. And on the other end, all we've seen is economic lethargy and at the same time, ballooning debt. So we are, and that has in effect merged into the position that where we are now. I think last year, as an example, the World Bank has had a project funding for what they call Climate Resiliency Infrastructure Project, CRIP. And instead of utilizing those funds for climate resiliency initiative, those funds had to be repurposed or redirected towards the unemployment relief program, the food assistance program, so what results is that we have much higher debt. We don't do any, we are forced to choose between climate resiliency and our economic challenges. Yeah. And that's where that conversation about the dual distress, debt distress and climate distress, how do we address both of those? And that's where that call that I made in the international community was about, that we need debt relief. We are a vulnerable country. In certain measures, we are considered a middle-income country. But really, given our vulnerabilities, we have to have that special and differential treatment, if you will, to enable us to address climate resiliency considerations. And to be able to do that, we need that debt relief. And debt relief has to mean not interest capitalization like we've been looking at, or debt suspension. That's just prolonging the inevitable. What we need in terms of debt relief is debt reduction, debt forgiveness, debt cancellation. And that, I think, is a common call or a common need amongst vulnerable countries like ours.
For sure. And I think that, you know, in the best case scenario, we would be able to see some of that, and that is reflected in the budget. But shifting gears a little bit, one of the other features, or major features of the budget, and the Prime Minister did speak about this in the initial presentation, is talking about eliminating waste and prioritizing government spending. Can you talk a little bit about those considerations when it came to putting together the budget?
Well, in terms of the second part, I think I kind of referenced some of that in terms of prioritizing the capital expenditures to more grant-oriented, but also productive sector-oriented that will support efficiency in our productive sector. But besides that, when we look at efficiency in our spending, in our recurrent expenditures, that's where we have gone through, or are in the process of going through the centralization of public procurement. That's one of the initiatives, but alongside that as well is the implementation of internal audit controls and procedures, so that we can initiate, perform, plan and perform internal audit activities on an ongoing basis. So institutionally, those efforts are ongoing as we look at how we spend on an ongoing basis. That said, in terms of the figures, with respect to the goods and services line item. So in terms of our budget, the main line items are the emoluments or the wage bill. You have your goods and services line item, and you have pensions, and then you also have subsidies and current transfers, which in many ways is connected to your wage bill, and then you have your debt servicing. So in looking at goods and services, initially we had looked at a reduction on that line item of 15%, but going through the budget and appreciating the financial position we're in, we had to up that to around 30% reduction. So it definitely has to be a streamlined effort in terms of the way we spend, so that we reverse the path that we are in and get into a more sustainable path and going forward.
Let's look at the implications of some of the proposed recovery measures that have been outlined. Government is, in fact, the largest employer in the country. It would also be one of the biggest customers for a lot of private sector as well. When you talk about reducing the amount of spending on goods and services, and naturally when you talk about reducing salaries, it then means, and many have been speculating, that in the months to come, things are in fact going to get more challenging because there's less money moving around. How do you respond to that?
I think it's there are a combination of points to raise when you speak to that. When you look at an economy, you have to, government expenditures represent a significant portion of that economy. The private sector, consumption, investment, imports, exports, all those represent additional key components of your economy. The fact of the matter is, on the government end, Belize is not the United States. Belize doesn't have the US dollar as its currency. Belize has the Belize dollar as its currency. So at the same time, when we conduct business, we import quite a lot. And if we import quite a lot, we need foreign exchange. And if government just spends and spends by printing money and spends printed Belize dollars, what you end up with is a position of one, inflation, but two, devaluation risk. Because you might be printing Belize dollars, you're not printing US dollars. The US can print US dollars, and everybody has demand for the US dollars. We, in our case, we have demand for the US dollars that the US is printing. But as much as we have demand, we can only attract US dollars if we create value that attracts the exchange or the supply of that US dollars. So it is certainly more difficult for us in terms of what we can do from the government side if we are not in a strong position for spending, if we don't have that strong foreign currency backing. Now, when we look at the fiscal constraints that we find ourselves in, that forces us to, whether we may like it or not, but certainly I think it is something that we absolutely support and promote, the private sector. We have always heard and always heard of others speaking about how important the private sector is. Yeah. But as important as it has been said to be, what has been happening is that government has been getting bigger. Government has been, in large part, crowding out the private sector. What we need is to reverse that path and enable the private sector to step out and emerge as the leader of this economy. And that's a large part of the focus of government, of this administration, is looking at how do we enable the private sector. And you've seen certainly the efforts on the agriculture, in the agriculture sector, and the Minister of Agriculture, in just, as I mentioned in the Senate yesterday, what happened with livestock. $13 million worth of livestock were exported under this new administration. That could have happened under the past administration. Other items could have also occurred under the past administration, but that is where we make a difference. How do we enable the productive sector? How do we enable the private sector to play their role, their leading role in pushing this economy forward? And when we look again at those economic components, those components that make up our GDP, exports is that substantial component. That's a private sector component that makes that contribution. And exports specifically generate the foreign exchange that enable us to import fuel, to import electricity, to import bandwidth. So I can't underscore enough the importance of having a thriving export sector, which includes agriculture and includes tourism, includes BPO, and of course, other sectors that we want to see develop. So that's where our focus is how do we move into an export-driven and promote exports so that we can fill the hole that was created by the economic contraction, unfortunately not through government expenditures because of our fiscal constraints, but with private sector initiative and productive sector efforts.
There is the Economic Recovery Advisory Committee that's been put together with representatives that comprises private sector representatives, and they've submitted recommendations so far to government. One of the cries we have always heard over the years is how challenging it is to be competitive in the international market because of taxes that may be associated with whatever production or manufacturing they need to do here. What's the status of being able to look at that aspect? Because if we want to be able to build or export and reduce the trade deficit, then it also has to be where it can be affordable and possible for us to be able to build what we have here.
I wasn't sure I heard if you were referencing taxes.
Well, taxes is one, but they've always talked in general about whether it is importing particular items that they need for manufacturing, but in general, it is difficult for them to be competitive.
Yes, I think that has been a part of that conversation of the Economic Recovery Advisory Team. And some of the recommendations certainly are worthwhile looking at whether it can be implemented. But you have to look on both ends. Mm-hmm. One of those recommendations that have come forward is looking at a completely different approach to taxation of in effect, the export sector, the productive mm-hmm. sector. That, as it stands currently, the government taxes on inputs, not really on the outputs. So it taxes, you have the import duties, you have the environmental tax, you have GST. All these taxes get taxed on inputs.
You have
Not
fuel
all
tax for
inputs, but-
transportation portion.
Sorry?
You have the fuel tax too, that also
Yes,
adds
fuel
if they
tax,
have to move
yes.
around.
So you have
Yeah.
all those various taxes that are applied on the inputs to production. One recommendation has been, instead of applying it on the inputs, you apply it on the outputs, and that's the conversation about excise tax. What that does, or what in principle that will mean, is that there's less cash outflow on the input side for the business, which enables that business, that productive sector export business, to invest that cash into the business so that it allows it to have a larger productive capacity or production on a whole. And so with that larger production, there can actually be more tax revenues that can be generated on the output. So that's one of the conversations that have been raised, and one of the recommendations that have been put forward. That one is, like I said, very interesting. However, it does mean a transfer of risk from the government over, or from the productive sector business over to the government, in terms of waiting for that cash flow. So it's cash flow that has that would have been with the government, would no longer be with the government until production occurs, if production occurs as contemplated. Sorry about this.
You got to tell them you're busy with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so that's, sorry about that. So that's, like I said, there's a transfer of risk in cash flow to the government in that sense.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you can say, okay, that sounds great, let's implement. That's something that requires some level of analysis or deep analysis to see whether it can make sense for both sides, whether it can be a win-win for both sides.
And access to markets is critical. You know, even if you assume you have access, as we saw with sugar, it doesn't necessarily work out the way you think it would.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, yesterday in your Senate presentation, you used the word radical, and it's something that stood out to me, because it really talks about the innovation that we have been hearing from all sectors that is necessary at this time. There are no easy decisions. I believe you've said in previous interviews right here on the station that they're all tough decisions to be made. What in this budget indicates that radical shift from where we were going to where we need to go?
Well, I think one, that rethink in terms of the unwillingness to make hard decisions, that's really a radical rethink in its own right. All we have been doing over the past decade, if not more, has been kicking the can down the road. I think one of in one of our presentations, we have a chart that shows the growth in debt, 1998, 2008, 2020. And what is telling is, in 2008, there was this big super bond and $1 billion in debt. And then 2020, we have $1 billion in debt with that same super bond. In fact, it's a little more because of the interest capitalization, another $50 million more. So we have something from over a decade ago still there. We did nothing. All we did was kick the can down the road, doing nothing. We have to do something. That's what it comes down to. We have to do something. We cannot keep kicking the can down the road. We looked at our salary structure, and instead of managing our salary structure, what happened? It just ballooned, and there are various reasons for that, not least of which is political in nature. So all we're doing is avoiding not making the tough decisions. I think that's that radical rethink. We have to be willing to make the decisions. We have to be willing to lead. This administration was elected to govern, not to be governed. And that's where I think, as simple as those statements are, they mean a lot in terms of how do we turn this country around in a direction that we want, that we all want.
Confronting the debt is definitely a key aspect here, and there is, as outlined in the budget, a need to restructure the super bond. There is a payment due in less than a month. What happens now, and where are we in that restructuring?
That process has begun. We are the creditors committee for the bondholders that has now been established, and there are ongoing communications with the creditors committee. I expect that it will take some time. I think it's important that the bondholders know that we are serious. We want to make sure that we get this thing right this time. And the difficulties that we've gone through consultations with the budget. We have made these decisions with respect to the salary adjustment. Those are demonstrations of our commitment to making sure that we get this right. We have had the conversations with the IMF. We have indicated what our plans are, and we are following through on those plans. We have to show that commitment. We have to evoke that respect for us to have. We have to show that we are credible. And that's that process. It takes time, it will take time, but I think we expect positive results.
Minister, one of the things that we hear very much being a call from the unions, and not just the unions, but also the general public. In the past few months, since this new administration came in place, they've been outlining quite a number of decisions and contracts and tax relief that are questionable. What is the possibility of asset recovery in being able to at this point in time?
I think that's one of the areas that we share wholeheartedly with the unions and the unions' efforts to mitigate, eliminate corruption from government. And I think their call for various legislation is actually our call as well. In terms of anti-corruption and good governance efforts, that is really the platform on which this administration came into government. This party came into government, and what has been occurring over the past months and what will come over the coming months is the realization of that good governance agenda. I think just yesterday we had in the Senate the approval of the social partners to become members of the joint Public Accounts Committee that was just recently reconstituted under this administration. I think that's a huge step, and certainly should be fully recognized for what it can, what it is, and what it can be utilized for. The efforts in terms of what the unions speak to with respect to the whistleblowers legislation and the asset recovery, those are items that this government is actively working on. And I think in short order, we should in fact have draft legislation along both lines. I think we had referenced or spoken about the Economic Recovery Advisory Team. They themselves as well certainly are recommending similar legislation. In their case, they spoke of unexplained wealth orders law. That's coming from the business community. The lifestyle investigation or lifestyle audits, all those things coming from the Economic Recovery Team, that those are things that are part of government's good governance agenda and align with the union's interest in an unjust enrichment law and an asset recovery law. So I expect that those laws or drafts of those laws will be forthcoming in very short order. It is the next step will be then after enactment will be in implementation. For example, the asset recovery or civil asset forfeiture and recovery. That will mean the establishment of an asset recovery unit. Where is that placed? How is that manned? The costs associated, and we have to find that money, but certainly we will. But the process of implementation, so that it is not just another piece of paper on the books, but that it is a live, functioning inhibitor to corrupt behavior, corrupt activity. Certainly the development of that law is not only about looking forward, but also looking at what has been done. So it will, I expect that it will involve a level of retrospectivity, so that those that have benefited by their corrupt behavior and the assets that they have gained are not, they won't get a free pass. They won't escape. They will be caught in the net.
And you know, I'm thinking that as you say that, though, that all of that will of course involve more resources being spent on the government side, and possibly even, you know, even looking at, you know, you spoke about a little bit like the establishment of new units. So how do we balance the economic considerations when we hear, when you do have that mandate?
Well, I think the economic consideration, corruption is certainly an economic consideration. It is a waste of government. It's not only criminal, it's a waste of scarce government resources, and it's a tremendous waste, whether it's in the form of tax evasion, asset disposal, or undervalued asset acquisitions. It's substantial waste of government's resources, or substantial loss of government's resources. So it is absolutely an economic consideration. So I believe that the investment in a unit like that is certainly well worthwhile in terms of what it can save. So if you look at it from a business standpoint, I think the return on investment is substantial, and I don't see that there would be a pushback in making that investment to eliminate corruption.
All right. Well, any closing thoughts as we wrap up the conversation for this morning?
No, I just certainly want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on these various issues. I think, as I mentioned in the Senate yesterday, not so much as about the radical rethink, but the generational reset that we need at this point in time. We are in such a challenge fiscally and economically that we need all of us to be aligned in purpose, to have that unity of purpose, so that Belize is too small for us to be divided. When we look at ourselves compared to other countries, we have to all be working together in order to compete, in order to stand up against or in competition with the international community. So it's way past time for us to move in a common direction. And I just urge that that focus be brought back, and that direction of working together is something that is embraced. The tribalism and division is not good for our country.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for being able to dive into some of the details of the new budget. Stay safe.
All right.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break.
And when we come back, we're going to be shifting gears and we're going to be speaking about how the pandemic affected the mentally challenged. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back after a short break.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
We don't have any vaccine trials yet where we used the first dose, one brand of vaccine, and the second dose, a different brand of vaccine. But right now, they are beginning to do trials in the UK and elsewhere to look whether you can combine one vaccine with another. Now, many experts in the field believe that, interestingly enough, your immunity might even be stronger if you get one vaccine with the first dose and a different one with the second dose. But we can't really say that yet because we don't have the data from the trials that they're putting in place to look at this. So at this point, we are saying, if you get the AstraZeneca, wait your 8 to 12 weeks and get the second dose with AstraZeneca. If you get one of the messenger RNAs, then 4 weeks, you get your second dose. If it's Johnson & Johnson, 1 dose.
Been drinking all night, feeling so high, better not drive, won't even try.
Been drinking all night, feeling so high, better not drive, ain't gonna try. Been drinking all night, feeling so high, better not drive, ain't gonna try. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. People die every day, I'm not going with ya. I'ma find my own way, I'm not going with ya. It's okay, I'll wait. Even good people make mistakes. I don't wanna realize when it's too late. Drinking and driving is never safe. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. If you're drinking and driving, I'm not going with ya. Been drinking all night, feeling so high, better not drive, ain't gonna try. Been drinking all night, feeling so high, better not drive, ain't gonna try.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we are just jumping into our second conversation for this morning, and we are bringing you our COVID-19 update. And this morning we are going to be speaking about how the pandemic affected the mentally challenged at the Welcome Resource Center. And joining us for this conversation, we have Joyce Ellis, who is the administrator of the Welcome Resource Center. Good morning, Joyce.
All right, we have you. You're on mute right now, so we got to get that sorted out. So can we hear you?
Hello?
Yes, good. Yes, Joyce. How are you this morning?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, we're doing great here. Thanks again for joining us. Now, let's start off with just a little bit of an introduction for some of our viewers who might not be familiar with the Welcome Resource Center and the work that you do. So why don't we just talk a little bit about what the Welcome Resource Center is and what your role is.
The Welcome Resource Center is a drop-in center where we care for mentally ill, homeless, elderly, deportees, and of course the addicts are also a part of that group. Now, at the center we provide social support in terms of a shower, change of clothes, and they do some leisure activities, and they also could just relax from the element and just find others there that are in similar situation like them, discuss and see the best practices that work for them.
Yeah. How many participants do you have at this time?
At present, coming to the center, we don't take no more than 25 due to the pandemic, but we don't turn anyone back. They'll just get, they'll still take their shower, but they'll pack their food to go.
Wow, Joyce, I never thought of that you have your COVID restrictions there as well, because usually they can all come and kind of gather there and take a break indoors because they live, most of them choose to live on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in the course of the pandemic, we've checked in with you a few times. One was in your attempt to get the homeless participants a place to sleep at night because the residential facilities are full and the resource center is a day drop-in. That was one of your first hurdles. The second one was being able to get financing. Talk to us about what it's been like for you guys there.
What it's been like, Marlene, it's always a challenge for us, but we work with every little that we have, and we speak with our participants to have them know that whatever we have, we are going to share it with them. When we don't have something, then we will say, you know what, today we can do without so and so. But for the month, I must say that we're still doing that 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and an evening snack for the ones who choose to stay behind. In the evenings, we still do a weekend package to hold them over for the weekend. It's challenging financially, so we're seeking donors, cash kind. Basically, right now, I must say we are like on life support with what we have, but I am hoping that it will get better with time.
And we, of course, are talking this morning a little bit about how the pandemic has affected the work of the Resource Center. So why don't you talk a little bit about what it's been like, you know, from the beginning of the pandemic to now, to where we are presently?
For us, the pandemic has changed a lot for the center because the participants and ourselves are used to being up close and personal, talking to each other in close proximity to each other, doing activities that would be group activities where you would have to be touching and holding each other. So to get them from not doing that to where we are now, keeping that social distance, was a bit difficult, but it's understood that we need to do that during this time. The hygiene aspect of it did not affect us very much because we were always big on hygiene in terms of the washing of hands, the proper way all the way to the elbows, between the fingers, under the nails, and things like that. The restraint for us is the mask. We have to be continuous reminding them that, you know, you need to wear your mask and wear it properly. So once a week, we would have that discussion with them about wearing the mask. Now, they get a clean mask every day, because what we do, we collect them, we wash them, dry them, and they're given a clean mask every morning.
Wow. Yeah. And in the course of the past year, have you had participants who did contract COVID?
Marlene, unfortunately, no, we didn't have anybody. That's, for us, we have always been looking at it, and none of our participants have contracted COVID. However, myself had it, but I was on vacation. So, and so when I came back and I told them about it, they were like, "No, we thought that if you get COVID, you will die." And so I explained the whole situation to them. I told them about the safety precautions that we were taking. Of course, I was out of the country at the time, and so when I came back and I told them about it and the experience, they were like, "Wow."
Yeah. You had a bad experience with COVID?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Okay, good. So it's amazing that in over a year, they have managed to not get the illness, those who are registered with the Welcome Resource Center. What about vaccination? How do you get information to the population that you serve? And again, it includes homeless, deportees, addicts, and people with mental illness.
What we did, Marlene, when they had the rollout, initially I had touched base with Dr. Musa, and she had said to me, you know what, there will be a phase when they could take their vaccine, and then she would have given me the information. At that time, also the Ministry of Health reached out to me and told me that, you know what, vaccination will be available for the population that we serve. And so I sensitized them on it, tell them about the vaccine. And I also told them that, you know what, it's not a must that you need to take this vaccine. So it's a choice. If you want it, you could get it. And so we had prepared a list for all the persons who wanted to take the vaccine. And they went, they take their vaccine, and they actually came back. And some of them would tell you about the headaches that they had right after work and things like that. But besides that, the vaccine is available to our participants and staff.
All right. Well, so we did a little check-in with you guys yesterday. Our producer went to the Welcome Resource Center to see how things are going. And of course, you know, as you noted, Joyce, this is an opportunity for people to know that you are still accepting donations to be able to help the participants who go there. So let's hear from them directly as to what they're saying about the pandemic.
COVID-19 has affected every Belizean, whether mentally, financially, physically for those who have fallen ill, and even socially. However, we haven't heard from one of the vulnerable groups, those who are mentally challenged, about how COVID-19 has affected them. Today, I'm taking the time to have a one-on-one chat with the men and women here at the Welcome Resource Center. Let's head inside. Tell me, Ms. Carmita, do you know what is coronavirus?
Well, I think coronavirus is a sickness that comes to us and it kills us. It takes over your whole body system. It weakens us and it kills us. You know, and We wear these masks here to keep ourselves protected, or social distance, and wash our hands, sanitize our hands, you know, and to keep ourselves clean. I mean, I am no doctor, but
I first heard about it on the radio, and the person that brings it never catch it here. He bring it with off of some plane where they never, maybe check that thoroughly. And even the mother may catch it out of some page there.
And how did you feel when you first heard about this? You get scared, you get worried?
Well, to be truthful, I never scared. The thing why I scared about them, and I have cure for it, HIV, that's why I scared. That's my view, right? That's my point. I afraid for HIV. But the virus, the other virus I know, because the things in that they say that you're supposed to do, when I do home, I don't got on no mask. The only year I got my mask, or when I go, sometimes I even forgot my mask. Because I got a shortness. And the shortness, the covering of my nose, make I breathe more faster, more efficiently, right?
Have you ever been stopped by police for not wearing a mask properly, or for being out during curfew hours?
Curfew hours, and they asked me what purpose I have to do out there. I tell them I was helping a lady, asked me for carrying sheet table for her, and get bread away, asked me for carrying for her, and they stopped me, and I never have on my mask at that time. And they tell me the next time they catch me, they will carry me for not wearing my mask.
Has COVID affected you in seeing your loved ones anyhow? Have you gone to go and heal them or spend time with them?
I'm going to go heal them today and spend time with them today.
And how often you go?
2 weeks. Every 2 weeks.
So COVID hasn't affected you from go around there and then not try shun you in any way or anything of the sort? Police ever stop you for not having on a mask or?
Not have on my mask all the time. Try to keep on my mask.
Have you heard about the COVID-19 vaccine?
Yes, I've taken it also. I did the first injection on the 14th of April.
Were you afraid to take it?
At first I was reluctant, but I said it's better that I take it so I could prevent myself from catching COVID.
Do you tell anybody else here at the Welcome Resource Center, do you encourage them to go ahead and take the vaccine as well?
Yes, Miss Ellis invited us to go and take it, and then I'm a mental patient, so they came for me and I took me to the institution there, and then they gave me it.
Did it hurt?
It hurt I had fever for 2 days.
So you actually had side effects?
I had some side effects.
Just fever?
Just fever. And a little pain and swelling at this site. Yes.
Okay, and so from since then you continue to practice your prevention methods?
I make sure I wash my hands every time, sanitize when I come in. I bathe often when I come off the streets. I make sure I social distance, wear my mask every time.
All right, that was a check-in with the participants there at the Welcome Resource Center. Definitely. I love how they talk about mask use. Joyce, it seems that they were paying attention when you gave those education sessions on mask use.
The thing at first, when it wasn't mandatory, we already had the mask, Marlene, but because it wasn't mandatory that we use the mask, some of them were reluctant. They were like, but it's not the rule. And I said, okay, so when it's the rule, then we will be able to have 100% of persons wearing masks, and then yes. But when it comes to the police stopping them, several times they would be in the yard and on the veranda. And I usually ask them that when they're on the veranda, they they distance themselves also.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you don't keep reminding them, then you have that issue of they're out there with the mask under the chin. And there was a particular day that a police patrol was passing and saw like two of them without the mask in the yard. And he stopped and I was coming outside at the same time. And he was like, put on a mask. I said, officer, no. I said, it's okay. I said, I'll deal with it. He said, lucky this lady got on the back.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and so let's talk about how people can help.
How people can help, Marlene, by bringing donations. We're in need of, right now, finance. We also have, like for today, I am wearing our t-shirts because we have a whole lot of t-shirts still available, and they're available now for $20. And when you buy a t-shirt for $20, you are providing one participant with taking care of themselves for an entire day. So when you buy a t-shirt from us, consider that you're sponsoring a participant for a day. We have them in gray, dark blue, white, and gray, dark blue, and white, yes, and black, sorry. Yeah. So those are the colors that we have available. We have them in different sizes. And for the company who would want their logo on the shirt, we could do that for them if they want to use it on Fridays, or for example, we usually have a banquet in October. We haven't been able to do any sort of fundraiser whatsoever for this for last year, and it doesn't seem as if though it will be possible for this year either. So we use our t-shirts in order to help us generate funds. And like I say, our most need is for finance, for food, because the people who normally support us can't do it at this time because they are not financially stable. That is understood, but every little counts.
Okay. All right. And once again, you're located in Belize City?
We're located in Belize City at the corner of Vernon and Tibrouz. You could call us 202-2511. You could visit our Facebook page and like our page, and you could interact with us there on the page. We also promote the wearing of masks. So we also do the masks, that we sell masks also.
Okay.
So when you buy a t-shirt, if you buy a t-shirt for $25, along with the t-shirt, you will be able to get a mask. So the mask is $5 and the t-shirt is $20. So you could buy a package. Yeah. We were also looking at, because we cannot do our usual night of being homeless, we want to do that where families and organizations buy the t-shirt and they just do their virtual sleep out in their yard. And take pictures and send it to us, and we will be able to put it up on a large screen. And we're also looking at having like an information time when we're having the night of being homeless. Yeah. So you have between now and October 10th to get a t-shirt, mask from us, take your photos of family, maybe relaxing on your lawn, on the veranda, anywhere else other than in your house or in your bed. Send it in to us, and we will use it to help promote not the night of being homeless, but just a time of sleeping rough.
Yeah. And just lastly, you spoke of the dire financial needs of the institution. Can people also give in kind too, if they have food to donate or a meal that they can bring?
We accept food, cash, time.
Clothing still?
Say it again, Marlene.
Clothing?
Yes, clothing also. So for us, we're open to accept anything that is usable. I said usable because sometimes they would say, Miss Ellis, we have this and that for you, and then I would go and pick it up. And when we get it at the center and we're going through it, it's like 90% of it is not good. So we have to dump it. And so sometimes when people want to, yes, they want to give, but sort it out.
Yeah.
Don't give us what you won't ever use.
You're not a garbage place. It's,
oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do hope people take that into consideration. It's giving people stuff that they can wear. And when they go in for that shower to get clean, I can only imagine it's so hot these days that it's more important that they stop in at that center to take a break from the heat.
Yeah, and we notice even the showers are longer now because we usually give them like a time, we give them a time limit because we want to keep it flowing. But now they're taking a longer time in the shower. It's okay, but you just have to monitor them.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, Joyce, thank you so much for coming in and giving us this update. We really appreciate you letting us know all that's going on at the Welcome Resource Center. But we are, of course, out of time, so we just want to say thank you once again.
Thank you, too. And my final word is that July 8th, we will be 8 years old. So.
All right. Well, we got an anniversary chat to have by then.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joyce.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that, we're going to take a break again. And when we come back, we're talking about another vulnerable group. And if you are an animal lover, you want to tune in to find out what the Humane Society is doing and how you can help.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Hi, I'm John, the owner of JJ's Supermarket, and I currently have 10 employees. eCash powered by Belize Bank will enable me to pay my employees and my utility bills. Here's how. For salary payment, I will fill out the salary payment file provided by my bank by placing the code SAL in the payment type column, followed by the details of the payment. Some of my employees don't have a bank account, but with eCash powered by Belize Bank, I don't have to worry about this anymore, as I simply add the registered employee's wallet number, which is simply a mobile phone number. After the form is filled out, I will log into my Belize Bank online account and upload the file under salary and vendor payment. Paying salaries online with ePay ensures both of our safety, as I don't have to have huge amounts of cash in the store, and my employees won't have to worry about being robbed. Once you have salary payment enabled with your bank, you too will be able to send your employees who have an eCash wallet number their payment. What's also great about this method is that it's cost effective, as I don't have to worry about checks or sending multiple transfers. As a merchant, I have 2 eCash apps. one for business and the other for my personal use. With my personal eCash wallet, I can conveniently pay my bills without using any other device. After logging in, I click on Bill Pay in the menu area. Select the respective payee from the drop-down list and input the required details. Once all details are verified, I proceed to confirm payment. It's as simple as that. The payee receives the money quickly and I don't need to worry about being in long lines to pay a bill. Now I have extra time to focus on my business and plan for the future. eCash really makes my busy life easier. Next time, I'll tell you more about the security benefits that eCash has to offer. The digital payment revolution is here, and it's time to jump on board and welcome the awesome advantages that eCash has to offer for everyone.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
And if you are joining us right now, we're just getting our third conversation started, and we are shifting gears and talking a little bit about animals. And we specifically are going to be speaking about the increase of the abandonment of animals that has started since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us for this discussion this morning, we have Michelle Redon, who is a volunteer with Belize City Animal Aid and the Humane Society, and we also have Gianna Sosa, who is a volunteer with the Belize City Animal Aid Board. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, good morning. Thanks for having us today.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is, of course, a topic which probably doesn't get spoken about enough. And, you know, why don't we, I mean, at normal times, I should say, we have issues with animal treatment and animal abandonment. And things, I imagine, would have only gotten worse since the beginning of the pandemic. So why don't you talk about a little bit of what you've seen over the past year with at the Humane Society and Animal Aid Board. So Michelle, do you want to take that one and start?
Yeah, we've been extremely alarmed for the past year at the increase in the number of cases of abandonment, of animal abuse. I mean, you name it, we've seen it, and it's really disheartening as a group to be able to be, you know, to have to be dealing with these cases, because we truly love animals and we want the best for them. But we've been seeing animals left tied 24 hours without shelter, you know, the sun burning them, no water, no food. We've seen animals abandoned along the highway, animals abandoned in dumps. People just put their animals out on the street and close the gate behind them and turn a blind eye. And what's happening is these animals are not used to being on the street. You know, they were family pets at some time. They're used to being in a home with food, with water. So when you take an animal that's used to that and put him or her on the street, they don't know how to handle themselves. So what happens then, they get into fights, you know, they get beaten up, and then our group gets called because we then have to either try to bring back an animal that has been severely injured, or as has often been the case recently, we have to put the animals to sleep. And trust me, if you ever have to sit beside an animal knowing that you're putting this animal to sleep, it's something you don't want to go through. It's extremely heartbreaking. And we've been going through way too many of these cases recently because of owner negligence and owner abandonment of their pets.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Humane Society itself, because I think that, you know, oftentimes people see an animal and I see them say, you know, well, where is the Humane Society? But you're a volunteer group and there's no actual established, you know, shelter or place for these animals to go. How do you keep on going if you don't have these functions in place?
That's one of our biggest challenges, because believe me, Marlene, we get calls, messages, texts, tags on Facebook 24/7. And we have to keep reminding people, you know, listen, we love animals, we truly care about them, and that's why we're doing this. We're doing this with all heart. But you know, we have families, we have lives, we have jobs, and the community really needs to step up and take part in this also, because it's very challenging for us, and especially now with COVID, because the numbers of abandonment, of abuse have just tripled or quadrupled. And our group is all volunteers. You know, we have our fundraisers, and that's how we get our funds to take care of the animals. Yeah. But the cases have been so overwhelming that even our resources are running out. You know, we need the help. We need the help of the community at large.
Yeah. Gianna, tell us a bit about your volunteer work with the Animal Aid Board.
Okay, good morning. So I chair the Animal Welfare Committee. And what I help to do is rescue animals, provide animal care, oversee animal adoption and fostering. And we work with a big group of volunteers. So we take time out of our day from our families, from our work to do this. So what we really need is the help from the community to help us. Yeah. To assist. Whenever you see an animal in distress, an animal being abused, you know, do something about it. Call the police, make a report. Yeah. Something simple as giving strays water and food really, really helps them, because they're out here surviving.
Yeah, absolutely. You said call the police. That's one of the things that I think people don't know, that there are actually laws in place that it is illegal to hurt animals.
Yes, it is illegal to hurt your animals, to have them there without food and water. If you see an animal going without food and water for 12 hours, by law, you can go inside that yard and give that animal food or water. And you can make a report to the police. You just need to take evidence with you. So we do have laws in place, and we do hope to enforce those laws.
And, you know, Michelle, you were speaking about the huge increase that you've seen over the past year of both, you know, neglect, abuse, and abandonment. And do you think, well, I should say, do you think that that trend will decrease anytime soon?
Gavin, we would be extremely hopeful that it would. Realistically speaking, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, because what we've been seeing also, which again is alarming to us, is overbreeding. Every time you put on Facebook, you see these ads, people selling puppies, you know, and basically what is happening too, we have had a pattern in the past 6 months where small dogs are being stolen. And I suspect that the dogs are being stolen for overbreeding. Because then a little while after that, you see all the ads popping up with puppies, you know?
Yeah.
So this is another trend that, I mean, I don't know. We've been looking at Belize and, you know, we're just, I don't know, it's like everybody has just gone crazy since COVID, and a lot of people are using COVID as an excuse to be irresponsible pet owners. And I don't know, it's really, it's depressing. It's depressing because we want better, you know, we can do better, we should do better, and we owe it to our animals to do better for them, because they depend on us 100%. If you take a pet that has been used to food and water and love and affection and just throw this pup along the highway, I mean, what happens, you know?
Yeah.
What happens to that dog?
So in this tough economic times, do you think that it's people letting the animals loose because they can't afford to keep them anymore?
Could be. I mean, we've had a few cases where this has happened, yes, it could be.
Yeah.
But that's not the most effective thing to do, because if you just let your animal out, then how will the animal get water and food?
Yeah.
Where will the animal shelter at night? You know, and our society our group has really been trying to get a shelter set in place, because we get calls, I would figure at least 4 to 5 calls a day, sometimes more.
Yeah.
So we're in extreme need of a shelter right now, and that's what we're trying to do, so that we have somewhere that we can take the animals when we rescue them.
You know, there was a time where the Belize City Council had a shelter that they used to use. What happened to it? Like, that's not in use anymore?
No, Caroline Bowen was the one. She was the previous Humane Society, and she was the one who was in charge of that. Okay. But what people were doing, Marlene, they were just going to the shelter and just dumping, you know, throwing their animals over the fence. Oh. So that became a huge problem, and the society got overburdened with not enough resources, not enough assistance from anybody except the volunteers, and way too many animals. So that shelter also had to close down a few years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, we're the most populated district in the country of Belize. So we have the most strays here. So we are overwhelmed in the city with stray cats, stray dogs all over the place. So dumping these animals just adds to that. And then what happens is when these dogs or cats get loose and they're not fixed, they're not spayed, neutered by their owners, they breed. Animals get born into this world, they suffer, they cruelly die, and then the cycle continues. So we definitely urge pet owners to please, please, please spay and neuter your animals. It does help them also in the long run for their health. It helps against certain cancers and infections.
And, you know, what is the sort of network of support that you guys have among, you know, volunteers or maybe people who are willing to, you know, give resources or even foster or adopt animals? What level of support do you guys currently have with that?
Well, our group is extremely dynamic. You know, I always tease them and say that whenever I start doubting the world, I think about them and immediately I feel better. Because this group is really, really dedicated. They're loving, you know, they genuinely love what they do. They're not doing it just for recognition or whatever, right? They genuinely love animals, and extremely dedicated group. Basically 24/7 we go, right? We have a core group of about 10. They're our main group, 10 main volunteers. Those are Deandra Peralta, she's the head of the group. We have Elise Wade, Romy Wade, Devon Usher, he's the guy that goes around picking up the animals when we get the calls. Mm-hmm. We have Stephanie Skeen, Halima Santos, Jocelyn Carvajal, Alexa Sosa, Lucy Stables, and Cindy Blanco. And of course, Gianna and myself. So that's our. And then outside of this group, we also have about 6 to 8 people who help us with fosters. You know, if we have an animal in an emergency and we need to find a foster real quick, we have a few homes, not many, but we have a few homes that we can call and say, listen, we have an emergency, and if we don't find a home for this animal, we're going to have to put him or her to sleep immediately. So please help, right? But we need more fosters, because if we had people that we could call and say, listen, we have an emergency. We just picked up this dog off the highway. Can you please take in this dog? It would be a huge help to our group. Yeah. Because right now we're rescuing 50 dogs and only have 2 fosters, you know, so wow. The balance is really bad, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's such a tough situation, because while we do have laws, we know that they're not, you know, not many people consider the responsibilities that come along with being a pet owner. They get a puppy, it's cute, and then, you know, that wears off and whatever happens, happens. But it is a situation where, from the Humane Society point of view, it does have to get under control. The collaboration that you have, and I understand that you're swamped with just rescues, but how do you work with other agencies that can assist, whether it's the police department or other entities that can assist?
Gianna?
Yeah.
Is she still there?
Well,
okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Well, we've had some really sad cases of animal abuse come up, and people go and they make these reports to the police, but sometimes, you know, these reports aren't followed through. So what we would want is for the police to really help us, be on our side to do this.
Yeah, that would.
It seems. Sorry, you're saying?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It seems that the way I see it is that we do have great pet owners here, people who care, who volunteer, who foster, who adopt, but it's never enough. We always need more. We definitely need more support, more donations, more help from the police.
Yeah.
And more help from the community at large, because people forget that we're volunteers, you know? Everybody says, call the Humane Society, and we're like, oh, please help us too, you know? It's like people would pass along the highway and they're like, Mish, we just saw 2 puppies thrown on the highway. And I'm like, okay, and what did you do? Did you pick them up? Well, no. Why? Why didn't you pick them up? Oh, because we were driving past, you know? And then the expectation has been that, oh, call one of the members of the Humane Society and they will immediately drop what they're doing. You're feeding your baby, you have to pick up and go and pick up the dog. You know, you're at work, pick up and go and pick up the dog or the cat. And we need the help. We're volunteers, you know. We really need the help and we need the support of the community. Like what Gianna said, a simple thing like putting out a bucket of water for the strays. It is extremely hot. The strays are suffering. They have no food, they have no water, you know. Put buckets of water right in front of your gate for the strays. It could literally mean life or death for an animal. And one of our members actually took that on her own and did that. Myrna, what she has been doing is going around putting buckets of water in strategic locations for animals, and it's been helping the strays a lot because they already identify the area where the bucket of water is. So, you know, that represents life or death for that animal for the day.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's like a good sign that you get people making reports. I mean, that's showing that there's some level of care for the animals. But you're right, there doesn't seem to be a connection between caring about the animal, but they prefer to call you to deal with it than perhaps to see what actions they can take. Do you take more volunteers? How do people get involved?
Gianna?
Well, right now we don't have an actual facility for people to come, you know, but that is our goal in the future. Right now, what we have is just a yard that we're holding some animals. So we were actually hoping to have some volunteers come this weekend, you know, to bathe the animals that we have right now, to play with them, walk with them, because they don't just need food and water, you know, they need entertainment as well. They need love. They've had a hard life. So if anyone is free this weekend and would like to volunteer, they can go ahead and message the Belize City Animal Aid on our Facebook and our Instagram messengers. And whenever we do fundraising events, we always need people to come out and support.
Yeah.
If you would like to be out there with us under our tent, you know, selling tacos or selling baked goods, we always need the help. We welcome anyone who wants to volunteer. Just go ahead, send us a message. We'll get back to you and we'll let you know how much further you can be involved.
And it's fun. It's always fun.
Well, I mean, once there are puppies involved, that makes it a lot better. I know right now you're trying to get some puppies off your hands. Tell us a bit about that for people who are interested in adopting.
Yes, we have. This is Harley that you're seeing right now.
Oh,
Harley was
so
found
cute.
on the street in very rough shape, and he is doing so good. Check him out. He's a model.
I know.
Harley has been fully vaccinated. He has been fixed. One thing that we always do is make sure that our dogs are healthy. You know, we want them vaccinated. We want them fixed. We don't want them to be taken just for breeding.
Okay.
So Harley is up for adoption if anyone is interested, let us know. He is a very, very sweet boy.
Oh,
very, very
gosh.
active as well. So you got to keep up with his energy.
Well,
and the cat that...
Yeah, you can go on.
Yeah, there's a delay, so just go ahead, yeah.
Cotton, the white cat that was shown just now, she is also up for adoption. Her story is really sad, actually. Yes, this is Cotton. She's very beautiful. She has been vaccinated and fixed as well. She's a little bit under a year old. She had baby kittens, and sadly they died, and she was very, very sad. Animals get sad, depressed, just like us. You know, they feel that pain. And she has come back, and she is a brand new cat. So she is also up for adoption.
Okay. All right, and you are on social media. If people want to see more, get in touch.
Yes,
and also
definitely.
If they want to support our events too, we always post flyers of the different events that we'll be having. We post them on the Belize Tipi Animal Aid page, and our volunteers also post them individually on their pages. So if the community would come out and support the different events that we have, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Speaking of, we have a yard sale coming up May 8th, Saturday, at the Brody's Northern Highway. So look out for our posts that we're gonna make on that on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, so we'll definitely be...
Anything you can, you don't even have to buy. If you just want to donate, go ahead, do it.
No, we want to buy. And buy lots.
And we also have an art drive. Now, this art drive is headed and created by Marcele Gonzalez. It's a group of local artists that have come together, pulled their efforts in, and through art. So you can have your pets digitally drawn, painted, embroidered, you know, professional photography being taken of them, and what you pay for it goes back to us. So all the proceeds goes back to Animal Aid.
Nice.
All right. Well, ladies, that we hope that you get the support that you need from the community, not only in volunteers, but also in supporting all of those initiatives that you just outlined. But when we come back, we're going to have our wrap-up, so please stay tuned.
2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected.
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking, and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
We're back.
And if you're joining us right now, we're just finishing up our show after a bunch of great conversations.
Well, very diverse, for sure.
Yes.
From talking about the economy and the budget to talking about the participants at the Welcome Resource Center. Please remember that they are looking for assistance, financial, clothing, food, time as well. It's so important that we're able to keep this particular center going and that you can offer them support.
Yeah, and another vulnerable group that we spoke about this morning as well are our animals. So we want to thank the representatives from the Belize City Animal Aid Board Humane Society from coming in and giving us this update. If you can support them in any way, or if you can even take the initiative to volunteer with them, to foster an animal, to adopt one, you know, try to contact them, and we definitely encourage you to do that because, as you know, as we discussed, animal abuse, neglect is increasing, and and if you want to help, if you're an animal lover and you want to help out, try to support the Humane Society.
That's right. All right, but that's all the time we have for today. Remember, if you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OIEBelize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.